Hi, and welcome back to the channel on the college process. Once again, my name is Ed Zamora from Principia Prep, and today we're going to be discussing why you always fill out the Fafsa form. But before we begin, if you are looking for more content on the college process, please click the subscription button down below. It does notify you of new videos coming out, as well as if you do enjoy this video here today, please hit the like button. It does help the channel. That being said, let's talk about why you always fill out the Fafsa form. Let's first begin with, for those who are new to the channel or those who out there who are new to the financial aid process, the Fafsa form itself stands for Free Application for Federal Student Aid. Now, the Fafsa form itself is actually the form that starts off all financial aid. The form becomes available October 1st of the student's senior year in high school. That's the first time you can start filling out the form. And then each additional year your student's in college, you have to do it again and again, in anticipation of getting aid the upcoming school year. So if your student's a high school senior right now, you'd be doing it now for the freshman year, then next academic year, you'd be doing it again for their sophomore year, and so on and so forth, anticipation of each year they're going back to college to receive consideration for financial aid. Now, you complete the form on fafsa.ed.gov, and to fill out the form, you're going to need 2 FSEOG IDs. Now, since we've been asked by a lot of families out there about how the FSEOG process works and how to obtain the FSA IDs, we've actually created a separate video that goes step by step, as you can see here on the screen. In the description below, we have the link for that video as well to help you go step by step in figuring out how to obtain both FSA accounts. Now, if you are looking for more insight about the entire financial aid process and how it works, the financial aid forms, the deadlines, the due dates, the scholarships, so on and so forth, we do have an in-depth presentation. It's called the College Aid Presentation. I've actually put a link in the description below. You can watch that as well. It's one of the videos that a lot of the high schools are actually utilizing that we can't make it to this year. The College Aid Presentation goes very in-depth, and it's a lot more in-depth than I will be going in today, as far as just talking about the Fafsa form and why it's so important to fill out. Now, let's begin by talking about that. We've got that out of the way, why you fill out the Fafsa form pretty much no matter what. Right off the bat, let's talk about my background. I've been in the world of college, i.e. the financial aid world, the college admissions world, etc., working at various different private colleges now for over 22 years in many different capacities. And one of the biggest errors I've seen across the board is always when families decide for whatever reason that they shouldn't fill out the Fafsa form. It's always something like, you think you make too much, or someone told you not to fill it out, a financial advisor or an accountant, a family member or a relative. Now, my entire time of doing this, as far as working in the college realm, whatever you want to call it, the college world, I always get asked the same question by parents. The question's always, what if we make too much? And everyone wants to know, how much is too much income to make to fill out the Fafsa form? It's a tricky question to answer in a broad sense, but let me give you an example of how the Fafsa looks at you guys just from an income point of view. When it comes to the Fafsa form, kind of a rule of thumb kind of scenario when it comes to the mathematics of the calculation of the actual form is to assume for every $100,000 the family makes, typically 20% of it is going towards the cost of college. So assume if you're making $100,000, the school expects you as a family for one student for that academic year to be able to pay $20,000. Let's make another assumption. Let's say you're making $200,000 a year, which means you're paying $20,000 for the first 100, $20,000 for the second 100. That means for that $200,000 of income you have, the school is looking for you to pay $40,000. So let's just say the school costs $30,000 and you're going to be paying $40,000. Obviously, there's no space here for financial aid consideration, because if your income at the 200 level is saying you can pay $40,000 and the school costs $30,000, you already make too much according to the FAFSA, what you can afford to pay for college. The school doesn't have to help you out with any financial need, any grant money, any free money to help you pay for college. The only thing that would happen is, in this case scenario, is if you fill out the FAFSA form with this kind of income, the only thing your student's going to get is a $5,500 federal loan, because it's a federal direct guaranteed loan for your student for filling out the FAFSA form. You don't have to take the loan, but it must be offered to you. But it's the only opportunity you're going to have as far as the financial aid stuff is concerned. That form is going to grant you for freshman year. So that being said, and that being understood essentially by everyone in the audience here, I guess everyone watching the video here, why am I still saying fill out the FAFSA form? Well, for me, it's very simple, and now you're going to understand why I'm telling you. What many people don't realize is when you fill out the FAFSA form, you're actually doing 3 different things. Number one, obviously by filling out the FAFSA form, you're applying for financial aid through the college to see if you're eligible for any state, federal, or institutional grant money. The second reason you're filling out the FAFSA form is to make yourself eligible for state and federal loans. Now, without doing the paperwork, the state and federal loans cannot be provided to you. Because when it comes to loans, especially when you guys are going out there to trying to cover the remaining balance of the cost of the college that maybe you weren't awarded, either scholarships or grants and so on and so forth, there's basically 3 different types of loans out there. Now, we also have a video for this as well. In the description below is the video on the 3 different types of loans. That being said, you have state loans, federal loans, and private loans. To be able to get state loans and federal loans, you need to fill out the FAFSA form. This is the first requirement by almost every state loan, and definitely every federal loan. You must fill out the FAFSA form first, then you're allowed to apply for these loans. Now, every year, the terms and interest rates change for the federal, state, and private loans, which means every year, the ranking changes of which loan is better than the other. Some years, the private loans are better than state loans. Some years, the federal loans are better than the private loans. Every year as this stuff changes, you want to make sure that you're eligible or able to take out any of these three loans to help your situation. So if you know in the given year your student's going off to college, maybe a year from now, 2 years from now, you want to make sure that you're able to take out all three loans and apply for all three loans. And to be able to accept these loans, at least 2/3 of the loans, the federal and state loans, you must have completed the FAFSA. Even if you're not getting anything from the FAFSA, still fill out the FAFSA so you're eligible for the state and federal loan opportunities. Now let's cover the third reason you fill out the FAFSA form. As an insurance policy, or essentially a way of covering yourself, what I mean by that is this. Let's say you lose your job, or you go from full-time work to part-time work, or they cut your salary, or they cut your hours, or out of nowhere you have huge medical expenses, or God forbid, you lose your spouse. And you go to the financial aid office and you say to them, unfortunately something happened, job loss, medical issue, loss of spouse, etc., etc. I need financial help from you guys. What can we do here? The first question every financial aid office is going to ask you, everyone's going to ask you, every office, is, did you fill out the FAFSA form? The minute you say, no, I didn't fill out the FAFSA form, it's irrelevant that your accountant, your financial planner, you thought, whatever it may be, whatever reason you didn't fill it out, it's irrelevant at this point in time. They can't help you. Without the form in place, there's no way they can assist you at all. Making matters worse, when it comes to financial aid, there's actually 3 different deadlines when it comes to the FAFSA form. There's the college deadline, the state deadline, and the federal deadline. And it goes in that order. So if you miss the deadline, because most college deadlines for the financial aid form, the FAFSA, is roughly around February 15th and March 1st. Most state deadlines for their financial aid is typically around April 15th to June 1st. And the deadline for the federal government is a little bit later on, but the reality is, if you miss 2/3 of the deadline, you've essentially just shot yourself in the foot when it comes to getting financial assistance when you need it the most. This is especially true if your student is in the summer right before they go in, or in the fall semester, or in their spring semester. If you waited that long, the chances of getting the maximum amount of aid you would have gotten if you filled out the form before, even though you weren't getting anything, is going to be vastly different. So that's why I say think of the FAFSA form as an insurance policy to basically cover yourself just in case something goes wrong. Now, I respect and understand that each person's financial situation, college list, so on and so forth, the places you're applying to are all different. But please be aware, in the 22 years that I've worked in the college process, I've told somewhere between 7, maybe 10 families in total not to fill out the FAFSA form for very unique, specific reasons. And I'm talking about over a 22-year career where I've probably met easily over 100,000 families. Now, of course, if you do have a unique situation, we do provide at the end of this video my phone number, email address, so on and so forth. So if you want to run by your situation with me, just send me an email. Hey, this is my situation. What do you think? I can go over your situation and tell you whether or not it makes sense to fill out the FAFSA. But if you start thinking about it from a numbers perspective, I've easily met over 100,000 families, and I've told maybe 10 not to do the FAFSA for unique specific reasons, and typically just for 1 year, which means it's less than 1% of families I've told in my entire 22-year career not to do the FAFSA form. So all that being said, let me put it out there as well, the filling out the FAFSA form is not mandatory. You don't need to complete it. It's not something that has to be done per se, as far as an admissions situation or anything that to do with that whatsoever. Now, that being said, on the screen you see now is our contact information. You have on the screen our phone number as well as our email to contact us here at Principia Prep. If you do have specific questions, once again, send us an email. We do address them on a daily basis. As well as if you'd like a copy of our newsletter, just send us an email with the student's high school and grade level. We just need those 2 documents, those 2 pieces of information to send you out the newsletter. It goes out every month. The newsletter tells you what you need to be doing specifically each and every month. Other than that, thank you for watching. Once again, my name is Ed Zamora from Principia Prep.